So welcome to This Week in AI. Finally, Connor, a calm week. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Nothing happened this week, right?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing groundbreaking. Nothing that's going to turn the world upside down. Nothing like life-shattering. No sort of threat of...
No mythological model.
No mythological threat. No threat of the Terminators on the future coming to destroy us. Am I right? Was this a calm, sleep easy week?
I don't think we are ever going to have a calm, easy week.
Yeah. So this week, as you may or may not know, Claude, Anthropic, announced Mythos.
Mythos, yeah.
Talk us through Mythos and what was going on with that, Connor.
Yeah, so they dropped a video. They dropped a 245-page PDF saying, hey, we've released the smartest model in the world by a large margin, sometimes 20 or 30% up in many benchmarks. We're a little concerned it's too good.
Yeah.
It found many security vulnerabilities and widely used open source programs, things that would create some widespread problems.
Right. Okay. So let's just talk through this because we were alluding to this in the beginning. This is actually a big story.
Yeah.
This is like a huge story, and it's a huge story because of what Anthropic chose not to release.
Yeah.
Right. In the previous weeks, we've talked about OpenClaw, we talked about NemoClaw, and these were things that are being released back to back. In this instance, Anthropic was like, oh, by the way, guys, we've developed a world-killing model, and we're not going to release it, right? So talk us through that first part.
Yeah.
Why aren't they releasing it?
So they started what's called Project Glasswing. If you haven't heard about it, everyone's talking about it. Basically, what they're doing is they're releasing a preview version of this model to the core infrastructure companies, some of the biggest tech companies, Google, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Chase, CrowdStrike, and the list goes on. And they're saying, hey guys, here's an access to this model that can find a lot of cybersecurity vulnerabilities and bugs. You guys go in, fix them before we give everyone else this model and they bring you down.
It follows like Anthropic's personality as being like the sort of the conscientious company, the kind of the moral company. I kind of feel like if my friend Elon had developed this, he would just release it on Twitter/X right away and be like, go wild. Anthropic was very conscientious about it. They were saying, we're actually concerned with what we've built. What are some of the things Mythos found that raised their eyebrows, that gave them cause for concern?
Yeah, so I mean, the cause for concern is it found vulnerabilities that have been there for 20 years in some applications that no human developer had found. It's found, vulnerabilities across every major application, Firefox, and things that could really, exploit user security.
Yeah.
There was one other one that it actually escaped the sandbox it was in. It gained internet access and emailed one of the researchers about the vulnerability it found. So they found pretty early on with the model that it really needed to be kind of this secure rollout to these large companies that can maybe harden their infrastructure.
Right. So this tool, this model poses a huge security risk for the world. Even though they're coming across as the good guys, it is a little bit of a doomsday scenario.
A little bit, yeah.
Right? I saw people online saying all your personal information, anything you've done on the internet can be exposed. Yeah. And all of these tutorials on how to clear your browsing, how to clear your private browsing, all of these end of the world scenarios. I don't think we're there yet. No. I think that kind of comes with this. But it does point to emerging security threats from AI, right?
Yeah. As AI gets better in coding, it's also going to get better at exploiting vulnerabilities and finding problems. So this is something where when you're using your own Claude code or your own thing to make your own projects, very important to run your own security audits on the programs you're making, and important to keep your data safe and secure as these models get increasingly smart. Somebody with that intention to maybe steal data or compromise your application is going to be easier and easier for them to do so.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. Check out that video. This just forces us to reiterate security best practices you need to be considering if you're using any of these these large language models in your environments. They need to be sandboxed. What are some of the other things we talked about last week?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about just best practices of not sharing environment variables, not sharing data, not sending secure information over public channels, your repository, keeping it private, a few different things we spoke about.
Again, this is cutting edge. Who knows where we're going to go now? I read somewhere that OpenAI was like, oh yeah, we have a model too that we decided to hold back. It was a little bit of Mr. Me Too. Oh yeah, we have one too. And
they always do that.
Yeah, we're holding it back too for its security risks. I feel pretty confident that this is not a doomsday scenario. I feel pretty confident that once these companies get their arms around, kind of the potential of Claude Mythos, we will have some guardrails in place fairly soon. But stay tuned.
Next thing we're going to talk about is Meta.
Okay.
Meta has been a primarily open source player in the AI environment for the last couple of years, with Llama models being open source. They did release Muse Spark, which is a closed source API for private. So that means they're trying to, make some money on the AI space versus just open sourcing their models, which has been their, MO.
Yeah, and we always talk about the AI arms race, right? And I think about this in terms of the fast food arms race, right? You've got Jack in the Box. I mean, you got McDonald's and Burger King, the two top dogs. And I feel like Meta's not really trying to come in competing with Anthropic and OpenAI, right?
They want to be that other option.
Right. They're coming in the Jack in the Box model, like the Taco Bell of, is that right? How they're positioning themselves?
I would say Taco Bell.
Okay.
If I had to put it on one.
Okay, yeah. So it is sort of, they're not throwing a lot of, well, maybe they are. Are they throwing a lot of money?
They're throwing a lot of money. I mean, anyone in this AI space that's making their own models is throwing thousands of GPUs to train.
Are they trying to be the top dog?
I mean, I don't think they would be against it if they were to create some sort of mythos model that was, so smart. I don't know if they wouldn't stop from, making that money.
I just think it's late in the game for them, don't you think? I feel like Anthropic and OpenAI are way ahead, and they're just aiming. There's enough market space where they could just be happy as the Taco Bell of LLMs.
That analogy is a good one. I don't know what their exact. I mean, I think what they want to do is they want to stay relevant. They want to stay in people's perception of this tech company.
Yeah. Yes.
Tech
That's
forward.
Right.
AI.
That's right.
They probably want that AI stock bump.
Yes.
To hit their shareholders.
Yeah.
So they just don't want to be left behind and felt like Blockbuster.
Yeah.
In the tech revolution.
Yeah. Okay, that's smart because they recently had to pivot away from their virtual space.
Yeah,
what was that called?
They had Horizons and this metaverse.
The metaverse, right?
Yeah.
There is no metaverse anymore.
I mean, yeah, there's a few people in there, but
I think the metaverse has been shut down.
Oh, they shut it off.
I think it's over. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong and we're wrong, please put a nice comment.
Tell us from the metaverse.
Yeah. Respond from the metaverse and please put a nice comment, not the mean comments. ROM and YC.
Yeah. You give them the want.
Okay. So that's the meta news.
Yeah.
This last piece of news that you have here, I don't even know what those words are.
Yeah.
What is this?
So Z.AI is another company that trained a model. I believe it's in China. And it was actually an open source model that was able to achieve kind of near frontier level intelligence for coding, SWE benchmark, and long-term autonomous kind of agent sessions. So they're really trying to compete with these top dogs as an open source model, which is, uncommon.
Oh, okay.
One downside, though, is to run a model like this. I mean, it's 700 billion parameters, which is way more than you would have in your computer or your normal kind of. They do have API access, which they're trying to, obviously get, money through that. But if you wanted to run it locally, I mean, you're talking $100,000, to set up a server. So. Gosh.
Okay. So, is this Chinese?
I believe it is. I believe Z.AI is Chinese based.
Chinese AI is interesting to me, primarily because they're working under constraints.
Yeah.
They don't have access to anywhere near the kind of infrastructure that US companies do, and that's by design.
Yeah. These are trained on completely non-NVIDIA chips. So not even the old generation of NVIDIA that they have. It's a completely separate Huawei a chip that was trained.
Yeah, it's a real interesting test case of all the US companies are using is it NVIDIA, NVIDIA?
This is a running gag.
Yeah, the NVIDIA chips. All these companies have the same name, but DeepSeek was the other Chinese.
DeepSeek was the first, mainstream Chinese model that came up and that really put China on the map for AI.
So that was last year, and it was competitive, I think, with like the 3.5 of ChatGPT. It was like, it was as fast.
Whatever the model at the time was, it was nearly comparable, and they were supposedly trained on, a very small number of GPUs.
Yeah, yes.
There's conspiracy around that as well, because the parent company of that company actually had access to a large number of GPUs.
Right.
So who's to say they didn't use those? But yeah, there's AI arms races we talk about. It's not just a US-based arms race.
Yes.
It's also China.
Yeah, and it's the thing that was interesting about DeepSeek, in case people don't know, if it didn't require the GPUs, what the implication is that you don't need to build out all these gigantic data centers all over the world. You could actually have these powerful models running with less sort of compute and less strain on the physical infrastructure. And that again is like all the kind of environmental concerns that come with data centers.
I think it turned out to be not true. I mean, they continued scaling the data centers and they continued scaling these models to get more intelligence out of them.
Yeah, and that's sort of the when we talk about the AI arms race, that the material part of it is the building of all these data centers to have all this compute. Again, some world-changing news this week.
Yeah, the Mythos one is definitely the number one story this week. Anthropic continues to put out things that take over the headlines.
Right.
So I feel like they're going to keep taking the top spot.
Yeah, as Anthropic turns. It's like the old soap opera. And so once again, to all of our viewers, in the small business space in particular, how is this applicable to small businesses who are maybe already using Claude, are not using Claude? Mm-hmm. How should small business owners be thinking about these developments?
Yeah, I think the main thing is everyone keeps thinking, because there's new developments every week, multiple times per week.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like you're left behind.
Yeah, yes.
At least once a week.
Yes.
You're like, oh my gosh, this new model, this new agent, this new co-work, this new thing comes out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, co-work. We didn't even talk about co-work.
Yeah. There's Claude co-work. There's Claude. They have multi-session agents now that they dropped this week. I mean, you feel like you're never going to catch it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take you a few months to implement anything.
Right.
And by that point, AI is going to be already taking over you.
Don't feel left behind. Yeah. We can help.
Yeah. We're providing some guidance at whatever part in the AI journey you're in.
Yes.
And so we can kind of bring you up to speed and see where it actually makes sense.
Right.
Sometimes, it doesn't make sense in some areas for security or personal, information reasons. But there's definitely a lot of spots in the business where you're doing something annoying, repetitive, or you don't even have the right visibility. And this is something we can help you out with. Yeah,
this is kind of three ways we've been thinking about it. Ground up, you have no AI, you're doing nothing, and you're like, where do I start? We can help you there. If you have any kind of existing apps that you've built and you're like, how do we augment those, make those better? Can you come in and review those for us? Mm-hmm. And then this last part, which I think is a burgeoning space and an important space, how do you secure your development?
Yeah.
How do you secure, if whichever tool you're using, what kind of guardrails are you putting in place? And so if you've already started using one of these tools and you want a security audit, that's also something we could help you with. Reach out to us all the usual ways. You could call Connor. You could show up at his house. That's what I mostly suggest. Just come to Connor's house.
Does it all the time.
Come to Connor's house anytime and bring your code with you and just open the door and show it to him.
Just throw a hard drive at him.
Yeah, and he'll be happy to dig in. All the ways we can help you. Ground up, augment an existing application, or third, help audit and put some guardrails around what you're developing in-house already.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. See you guys next week.
Have a great week.